the early part of our marriage was not Christ-oriented. As time went on, we started a family, and I still was not necessarily following or seeking the Lord or anything of this type. I just did basically what anybody else would do. As I enjoyed life, we'd go out to eat. It wasn't Christ-oriented. Church was not a part of our life or anything like that.
Philip went to work for Salem Tools. Now this did change our life because he started traveling, and his territory was basically southwestern Virginia on up into West Virginia. So he started traveling. He traveled and stayed gone from Monday
through
Thursday, and he took up golf, and that took up the other parts of the time. Well, I'm just telling like it is.
Go ahead, man.
Okay, he had a group of friends. They loved, and we weren't living for the Lord really. We did not. It was not serious, our Christian relationship with the Lord. I kind of would call it sort of a parallel lifestyle. I had my thing that I did in Roanoke and with around my family and friends, and he was gone a lot.
In life, you allow things to become an influence upon you, and you listen to other people, you talk to other people that are sympathetic towards your problems, but they're not necessarily, they listen to you, and you think, well, they understand me much more than my spouse understands me. But so what you do is you communicate outside the family relationship with other people that are sympathetic towards you, rather than trying to talk a situation over with one another and trying to work it out amongst yourselves. So we had this fracture in our relationship. I'm not thankful for the things that happened prior to that, but I am thankful for the things that happened during this period. And I made the decision that I didn't really want to have the responsibility of being a husband or being a father. And it was a selfish reason it was selfish on my part. And this is something that I probably would not have said that at the time. It was just how I understand it and see it now. At this time in our life, Sandra had kind of recommitted herself to becoming more church oriented. I wasn't interested in going to church, and one day she came back from church, and I was sitting outside on a rock wall that was outside from her mother's house, and she comes to me and she looks at me and she says, "You look very empty inside." And I told her at that time, I said, "Well, I feel like I'm dead. And I feel like I'm dying." And of course, she says, "Well, let me pray for you." And I said, in my mind, I said, okay, I'll humor her and let her go ahead and do this, but I didn't know what I was in store for. We went down to the house that we were living in, and we got into the living room, and she started praying for me. And it was just an experience that it's beyond my imagination, because all of a sudden I could feel this something that was inside of me. It was like that I was going to explode, and this something started coming up from inside of me, and it got up to my throat, and it felt like, to me at that time, it felt like that there was some hands around my throat that were choking me. I was just about ready to gasp for breath, and I said, I'm dying. And the next words that came out of my mouth were, "God saved me." And it was just like it all left. It seemed like that the tears that came down my face, that they were so hot that it actually was burning my face. And so after this was over with, it was so realistic to me that I actually went into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror to see if there was scalded, if the skin on my face was actually burnt. That's how hot the tears felt. But and this was the beginning of a new day in my life.
And a new life.
It was definitely
It's a new life.
a new life. The struggles of the life that we go through as young people and as young adults is, especially in, I'll say more so in marriages, I want to do what I want to do.
Right.
I want to do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that we're selfish and that we want to have our own way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you start thinking about the goodness of God, you think of Christ as the ultimate sacrifice. And that's what we have to learn to do for one another, is to sacrifice and to talk to one another and be able to communicate, because but you have to have that focal point. When Pastor Stephen said something to me about this, he said something to me about what is in our life was most important, and I think forgiveness is probably one of the most important things. Is forgiveness. Is how that I know that there was a time that it was very hard for, especially after I got saved, for you to forgive me. But then one day that we came to another crossroads, and we both went to an altar, and you can only say, I'm sorry for so many times. And,
I know.
And so then it becomes the obligation of the other person to be willing to forgive.
To forgive and give up the anger.
Yeah.
And
And you know, you can't harbor these the ill feelings
no.
that you have. And it's very easy for these things to come into your life, because we still have that thing of wanting to be our own self and be selfish and have, I want to have my way
Right.
and not your way. Yeah.